So I think now, Boris, you and AJ are co-hosts, so you are good to share your screen. And hello again, everyone. Thank you for joining our workshop on ADS Ael Programming. This event is organized by the IEEE student branch in INRS and Polytechnique. And also we have the MTT Society chapter in Montreal. Professor Giraffi is here. And we also have Keysight Technology as a sponsor and the technical support for this workshop. And we had also the opportunity to have Starcom as another organizer of this event. So on behalf of the organizers, we welcome you to the event. And we are still waiting for other attendees to join our workshop. And I hope that we can start on time. But we will wait for another 5 or 10 minutes, and then we will start. Boris or AJ or Professor Jaffi, you are welcome to talk if you want to
thank
use
you,
the
Marine,
time.
for the introduction. I will just thanks Keysight for this initiative.
Yes,
and
sure.
I will also highlight this collaborative organization. It's something very important. Again, thanks Boris and Ajay for this talk. And thanks also, it's not the first time that you make a lot of effort to organize event for Montreal, the big Montreal family, microwave family. I think that's all. Just to mention that officially we have 75 registration and the number is still, but now we are at 32. Maybe we can 5 minutes to reach some, the number still, increase, and probably we reach more, maybe when we, 5 minutes should be okay, I think.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
And also, I should say that we will have like a 10 minutes break, one around 10 a.m. and other one around 11 a.m. So if you need to rest or fill your coffee, you can do it then. And as Boris said, the event will be recorded and then we will upload it in a drive or the IEEE Montreal website. And AJ, if you wanna start your sharing to test everything, test your sound, you are welcome to do it to save the time. Okay,
Can you hear me?
Hi, AJ. Yes, it's perfect.
Good. I'm coming through. I was having a little bit of technical issues this morning.
No problem.
But that's definitely Murphy's Law, right?
Yes.
When we do all of our testing, it works out great, and when we go live, you always discover something.
Yeah, exactly.
It's amazing how that always works, right? But that's all right.
Yeah, let me stop my sharing so you can start to see if everything is okay.
Sure. Okay. I'm just clearing out my desktop a little bit so I won't have anything extraneous here. All right, I guess we're ready to start. So I'll go ahead and share.
Yeah, but I think it's better, I just want you to like share your screen to be ready, but if you don't mind, you can wait
No, it's not a problem.
minutes.
It's not a problem. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Great.
Okay.
Okay.
Testing, testing. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Everything is perfect.
Okay, that's interesting.
Sound and the sharing.
Even though the mic is supposedly muted, it's not muted. That could be very dangerous, right?
Yes, but I can mute you if you want.
No, no, it's fine. It's fine. I can mute on the screen here, but I was surprised because the mic has a little
it has
control module on the.
Oh, okay. You know, it's the Zoom is sometimes really tricky with the like extensions. You need to control it on the Zoom only. It's
Right. Well, what's amazing is I can do volume control.
Oh, okay.
But I can't do mic control.
Okay.
So that's good to know.
Yeah.
Before starting, Moin,
Yes, sir.
explain how we will manage the question period, or?
It depends how IJ wants to do it. I think we can do it at the end of each part of the presentation, or IJ, you prefer to do it during your presentation?
We can try during the presentation, because I've generally found that the questions are very relevant, and we just need to be very careful that we don't go steering off into the weeds, as they say.
Okay.
But yeah, let's go ahead and try it as they come up.
Okay.
And of course we have chat, and if I'm too caught up in the presentation, if one of you guys can just nudge me and say, hey, there's a question, and then
I'll do it.
Please. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
But yeah, let's go ahead and try it, and let's see how that works. And
okay,
if it doesn't work too well, then we'll go ahead and adjust.
Okay. So I think if you want, you can start and go ahead. I just need to like do it. Oh, but you already did your. So I just read it. I won't share my screen to avoid because you already did it. I just wanted to read your bio.
That's okay. You could go ahead and read it if you'd like. I mean, I can stop sharing. However you want to do it.
It's okay. I will read it from the.
Okay.
Only with the sounds. Yeah, to save time. And thank you again so much. Okay, hello again, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining our workshop on Ael Programming. Today we have Arnaldo J. Sons, or IJ. He is an application engineer for Keysight Service Organization. And Keysight EEsof service provides a very extensive portfolio of services that includes, but not limited to, device modeling, device characterization, measurements, and over frequency measurements, and etc. And Arnaldo joins the AGN Keysight team since 2000s, and prior to joining to Keysight, he was an RF designer working on military radar systems at Lockheed Martin. He also developed RF receiver circuits for airborne radar system at Honeywell Incorporation. He holds a Bachelor in Electrical Engineering from the University of Connecticut, and also a Master in Electrical Engineering from Florida International University. And today, IJ will talk about the Ael Programming in Keysight's ADS software. As I said before, we will have 2 10-minute breaks, one around 10 a.m. and other one around 11 a.m. So without further ado, I invite IJ to start with the introduction, his lecture. Thank you so much, IJ, for accepting our invitation, and thank you so much for your time and effort.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.
Great. So, so this is Introduction to Ael Programming using Keysight's ADS software. In case you may not be familiar with ADS, it's the Advanced Design System that a lot of microwave and RF engineers use for developing RF circuits. So, and of course, Ael, in case you're wondering what that is, it's a native programming language that it's within ADS that allows us to do scripting. So let's take a quick look at the agenda here. So we're gonna open up with an introduction to what Ael is, the application extension language. That's what Ael stands for. Then we're going to go into the general Ael structure, language specifics. That's where we're going to get into a little bit of the syntax. We're going to look also at building Ael programs, Ael arrays, writing, loading, and testing Ael, and also loading context. There will be also 1 or 2 demos. I'll also share, maybe even 3. I'll share some work that I'm currently working on that I can share with you. I can't go into the gory details of it because it's still not available. But we'll do a little bit of sharing there. So jumping right in, what is Ael? Application Extension Language. Application Extension Language, Ael, is the native scripting language for Pathwave's advanced design system. As the slide says, it's a scripting language that's used for ADS. So the real key takeaway here on this this slide is that it's a general purpose programming language modeled after C. Went ahead there. It's the general purpose programming language modeled after C. It's used to customize, configure, and extend the capabilities of ADS. And we'll see some of the applications there that we use this particular tool here. In fact, a lot of the foundries use it for PDK development. Many engineers use it for enhancing their IP for their tool sets. We also have built enterprise libraries for various customers that were interested in capturing the entire library of their corporation. So it has an infinite amount of capabilities associated with it. If you can think it, you can build it, and you can go ahead and implement it. It has lots of functionality. It's very similar to C. It has file input and output management, mathematical functions, string manipulation. It can also handle lists and database queries. Move on to the next slide here. Okay. Oh, seems like my screen is not cooperating today. All right. What is Ael used for? Well, I touched on it a little earlier, but it's used for PDK development. Those are the process design kits that foundries put together or make available to their end users or their customers. It's also used as a means of organizing libraries and palettes, defining new and creating user-defined components. So if you have a component that you want to introduce into the library, you can attach a model to it, and all this is done through Ael, and you can create a bitmap for it and attach all of its IP associated with it to that bitmap. You can then instantiate it on a schematic. And of course, all this is done through Ael. Interestingly enough, the other thing you can do with Ael too, in case you may not know this or not, but you can also invoke other higher level programming languages. For instance, you can invoke a Python session, or you can run BASIC, or you can even run a Unix operation too. So those are several things, and it's all allowed, it's all permitted, it all happens through the various system calls that are available within Ael. So, And of course, as second to the last bullet says, you can create utilities and functions. And that's all to further enhance the IP of a company that'll help them do any task that seems, or any operation that they have to do over and over again. It allows them to repeat it, and it operates seamlessly with ADS. So. Wow, this is not cooperating with me today, is it? Okay, there it goes. So the general Ael structure consists of the Ael language is similar to C. Ael is it's a procedural language with many of the language components similar to C. Variables and functions and arithmetic expressions all come from or flow from those two. They share the same pedigree. They're very similar, but at the same time there are some significant differences. For example, in Ael, the language, Ael does not have a preprocessor, and what that basically implies is that a lot of the directives that exist in C, the hashtag ifs, the hashtag if and def, hashtag ndifs, the hashtag defines, those are not they're not available within ADS or within Ael. Ael can reference other Ael files using the load command. So in other words, an Ael script can call another Ael script, which is not very surprising because that's certainly a functionality of a scripting language or C. In conjunction with that, variables can be passed, parameters can be returned, information can be exchanged from one routine to another. Similarly to C, there are also keywords for different variables or different types of character types or different types of data types. Floating, double, long, short. I'm sure these all sound familiar for anybody who's taken any kind of programming classes. And also variables can be declared globally. So if you do have a variable that has to be recognized from one routine to another, then you can declare it globally and not have to worry about passing those variables from one routine to another. So that's something to be aware of. Let's see if this one. Okay, now it seems to be working better. The Ael language can be described in terms of 6 classes or tokens: comments, identifiers, keywords, constants, operators, and other separators. And I'll touch on each one of those and explain a little bit more what those are all about. But like C, blanks, tabs, and new lines and comments are ignored, except as a separator between other tokens. So that as it's being compiled, it just looks at it and says, okay, I need to do nothing here. And then it moves on. So that's something to be aware of. So when it comes down to comments, there are 2 ways to introduce a comment into C. If you're going to be doing a block of comments, then you start with the /*. So the opening, the very first character that appears prior, right where your comments are coming in, is the / followed by the asterisk, followed by multiple lines of comments, and then you would close your multiple lines of comments with a */. If you're only going to introduce one comment, then it's just simply a // and you don't have to worry about closing it on the other side or anything of that nature. Okay. Naming convention that's used throughout ADA or throughout AEL is the naming convention for typically used for AEL is lowercase b for a Boolean, because you can do Boolean operations. For complex numbers, it's C. For a D, it's double. For a float, you have that available. And you also have handles, so you can control variables and information of that nature. You also can manage integers or reals and strings. Identifiers, those are reserved keywords, and these are the keywords. So, like most programming languages, you have break. Break is always one that's reserved. Continue, declare, defund, do, else, for, go to, if, null. So basically, it's a collection of words that if you use it throughout the program, it needs to be used in the correct construct, because those are reserved words that cannot be used and cannot be unless your intention is to use them because you need to do a decision statement or you're involved in doing a Boolean operation or anything of that in those directions. You also have constants. So AEL supports two different types of constants. You have the null values and the imaginary numbers with the backslash. So those are your new lines, your carriage returns, your form feeds, your backspaces, your /t, your double quotes and your double backslashes. And of course you have characters, hexadecimal characters and other notations. And then the more typical ones like the null, or an integer constant, or a hexadecimal, those are very prevalent within the programming world. So that's something to be mindful about. You also have predefined global constants that exist for Boolean operations, uppercase TRUE and uppercase FALSE. Those are reserved, just like standard input and standard output, STDIN and STDOT. Those are the instructions you would use if you're wanting to echo any information out to a command window. So those of course are reserved. LN base 10. Boltzmann's constant, those are all reserved. Pi, so those are things to be aware of. On PC, that's if you're, perhaps you might want to consider testing. You have a requirement to test whether you're dealing with a Unix platform or you're dealing with a PC platform or Windows platform, then you can do an on PC test, because that's one very important point I need to make. Whatever is compiled in whatever excuse me, whatever routine is compiled. Sorry about that. I'm trying to manage the people that are joining in. Whatever routine is compiled in either Windows or in Linux will operate in either environment. So the code is portable. So if you have a script that you're using on a Windows platform and you need to do some work on a Unix platform or a Linux platform, certainly that script will work. Will work as long as you follow the Unix conventions of not leaving any spaces in between instructions and things like that. So that's something to be mindful of, that your code is portable. Some additional operators, of course, you have your parentheses, your exclamation point, or your exclamation point, which is traditionally the not symbol. So you can do a not equal by putting the exclamation point followed by an equal whenever you're doing a logical operation. If you could do an if A not by doing exclamation equal B, then perform this particular operation, else do something else. So that's also available there too. And you have the and symbol, which is also an identifier, and your percent and your division, of course, are reserved for mathematical operations. Greater than, equal, less than or equal. Equal is for testing a value. Bitwise anding is the and symbol, bitwise exclusive or. So you do have a collection, a very, very extensive collection of logical operators to pick from and to be able to use while you're developing your code. So that's also available too. There are also other operators. Whenever writing code in Ael, you need to terminate the line with a semicolon, which is consistent with C. So that's one thing there. It's very consistent. You also have the colon, which is also an identifier for a label or a tag, and then of course your squiggly brackets. Those are, again, reserved characters for specific operations when you're writing code. Something to be aware of too. When you're building an Ael program, you have comments, simple statements, compound statements, variable declarations, function definitions, and also control and logic statements. And of course, the control and logic statements would be your looping or your if then else, anywhere that involves a testing. Your functions, of course, item number 5, functions are your subroutines that will accomplish a very specific operation and return a value. You can do all that too. Or maybe perhaps you're just going to be returning a flag. So that's also another possibility there, what you have. And we're going to touch a little bit upon what is a compound statement and a simple statement. Any questions or comments? I should have asked, has anybody in the group done, and I guess it's kind of hard to do when you're in a Zoom meeting, but I normally engage with the group and I asked them, has anybody ever done any Ael programming? And I guess it's kind of hard to take that kind of a query here, right? But it would certainly be nice. Maybe perhaps you can just chime in there, if you've done, in the chat room. I'm kind of curious to know. But certainly, if anybody has ever done any, it would be really good to know. But if you haven't, I encourage you to go ahead and try some very simple programs, and then you'll see how simple it is, and you'll be able to build on your level of expertise on there.
I think this is the best choice to start with something more basic. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I think we should stay in the basic.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something that's, I encourage you to try it.
Mhm.
Any questions so far? Any comments?
I don't see any questions, but two people said that they don't have any experience with AEL, but Will said that he built a component based on, he built a lot of component bits based on AEL. So
Oh, good.
yeah,
So we have somebody who's actually built components. That's great.
yes,
That's great. That's one of your more extensive tasks.
yes. And he said he really wish if I can do the EEM post processing, but by AEL.
So you want to do some EM post processing using AEL.
Yes,
Okay. Well,
but it
unfortunately,
seems,
we're not going to get into that here. Perhaps maybe we can coordinate something a little more advanced for the future.
yeah. Just to explain something, Mr. Surush has asked that if you can please show an example or demo. I think we said at the beginning that we will do it at the end after you know a little bit of the basics, and then we will have some examples. And I think AJ has created some exercises for you and with the answers, so you can do it at home after the workshop.
Right. There's going to be and I'm still trying to wrap all that up because I was putting together some of that information till very late last night. But you'll be getting like a little a collection of programs that you can, snippets of code that you'll be able to leverage. The other thing too is, and I'm going to put an advertisement or a little plug in here for our AEs that have been working very, very hard. A lot of them have been developing content on YouTube for different areas. There are several slides out there, or several YouTube videos that have been put together by our AEs for AEL. If you all have access to the Knowledge Center, there is quite a bit of content out there, pieces of code that will get you started, that you'll be able to do different tasks. You never know when you're wanting or needing to do something like maybe you need to go through a design or a schematic to get a bill of materials, what components appear on there. And that, of course, is an application that's very well suited for AEL. You can also, on a more advanced level, you can also build add-on utilities or add-on applications, where now you are basically through the drop-down menu on the main window, you're actually attaching a piece of code that you put together, and now you have API calls on there, and you have drop-down windows that you can select, and you have an entire collection of actions that you're taking on a particular schematic to interrogate it and get information off of it that you need to move to the next activity on your design process. So that's something that you can do, and I'm going to show one of the last ones I'm going to show is an add-on that I'm currently working on, and you'll get a feel for some of the things you can do. You can add radial buttons. You can add browse buttons to browse to a particular file or folder to select things. All that you can enhance the power of ADS through AEL. That's something that we'll see also here too. And I hope that you'll develop a passion for it, and you'll see how useful it becomes as we go forward here.
Good.
Okay, so let's move on to the next slide here. So Ael programming consists of a sequence of one or more of the following statements that will appear within a particular snippet of code. You'll have a collection of comments. You'll have some simple statements, compound statements. You'll be declaring variables. You'll have function calls because it made sense that you keep repeating a particular function to break that piece of code out so that your code flows smoother and it makes more sense and it's more readable. Because at the end of the day, you will have to troubleshoot code. That's one of the, that's part and parcel, as they say, of writing code. You're going to get this snippet of code or this chunk of code that's not working, and you're going to have to troubleshoot it. And the more readable your code is, the more easier, the more cleaner it flows, the quicker you'll be able to troubleshoot. Or you might find yourself one day saying, gee, you know, I've outlived the capability that I wrote of this code, and I really need to update it or do some enhancements. With comments, which I encourage you to write plenty of comments, and also break out as many routines or functions that you can add. They're not very difficult to do. You don't have to do a headstand to make all that happen. It's very straightforward and simple. It'll make it in the long run, it's good programming practice. It'll make it so much easier to troubleshoot or enhance the code later on if there's any changes that need to occur. And good logic, good control of your logic through your if then else statements or any looping or whatever is always something very, very good to have. And indentation, those are all good practices. So those are things that I highly, highly recommend. One thing I should mention is Ael does not have an editor like some programming languages do. They have
Ajay, I'm sorry, I think you're unmuted. You're muted.
Am I okay now?
Yes, I'm really sorry.
You can hear me.
I tried to admit attendees and
no worries. I think
sorry.
between yourself and me, I think we're catching most of them.
Yes.
That's all right.
You.
We're doing a little bit of double duty here.
Yes.
Those are things that you have to be aware of as you're programming to make sure you have good logic, good flow of your program. So that's something that that's consistent and important. So, and let's go ahead and take a look at some of these. Okay, why isn't it going? It's not moving to the next slide. There we go. So, as I said earlier, a comment consists of a single line, much like what you see here, which is your, let's go with the laser pointer here. So here's your instruction here, and you have // and that pretty much signals the compiler not to compile this instruction here or this line here. If you have a collection of comments, you're a person that likes to write a lot. You want to write a whole paragraph and you want to embed it in your entire code. That's perfectly fine. Just open with a / and start writing and start writing and start writing. And when you get down to the point where you're comfortable with you've said all that you wanted to say, close it with the */. Otherwise, you will get a code, or you will get an error, a syntax error, depending on where it encounters the next */, and the compiler will get confused and it'll go ahead and give you a syntax error. And I want to say most of the syntax errors are pretty straightforward, although every once in a while you do get a cryptic one that'll leave you scratching your head for a day or so, and then you'll realize, oh, that's what it is. So something to be mindful about that. what I was saying earlier is we don't have an environment. We don't have an environment like some of the other programming or scripting languages do, like Python or any of the other ones. But we do recommend, or you can use Notepad++. And of course, you'd pick the C++ style for it. And it will highlight in the right colors, and maybe with some additions to it for some of the specific instructions for AEL, and you'll have access to it. In fact, I think it might be a good idea to just pause the presentation here for a second and just go right into a little bit of show and tell here. So if I go to my Notepad++, you'll see that you have, as I said earlier, you have a snippet of code here. The light blue is your declarations. Your green are your comments. And of course, reds are equals and parentheses, so you'll see all that. And yeah, I also use good programming practice is I use slashes to comment out chunks of code when I'm troubleshooting. So this is what you'll typically see here. This is a boot file for a particular piece of code that I'm writing for an add-on. And for those of you that are not familiar with what an add-on is, let me just give you a quick look at what that is. So in your ADS main window, under Tools, Application Manager, you have a collection of utilities that are rolled out as part of ADS, part of ADS's feature, or part of ADS's standard tool. And these are either in the form of AEL or C++, or they've been written. You can also create your own, and you can add them on, and then you can manage them by just checking or unchecking. So this is really a convenient way to manage any utilities that you create in the future. Or you can always run your routines through the command window, which we'll see a little bit more of that. We'll see a little bit more of that later on, and that's also, that of course is available through your main window under Tools, Command Line, and what it looks like. And I happen to have it opened up in the back here. This is what it looks like, and here's how you communicate with it, and you pass instructions into it for loading or compiling snippets of code that you've created, and you want a certain action to occur. So we'll get into this a little bit more in just a bit here.
Ajay, I'm sorry, but you were showing the ADS because we are still seeing your code.
Oh. So you should, yes, actually I was. Unless my screen is frozen.
I think you just share your, you need to share the whole screen when you try to start your sharing.
Okay.
Not
good
only
point.
The presentation, yeah.
Let me go ahead and stop sharing and reshare.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out.
My pleasure.
Okay, so I have share screen. And let's see where share screen wants to take me now. So right now you should see Notepad++. You should see my entire desktop. Do you see that?
It's loading. We are waiting. So
okay, let's give it a little bit of time.
Sure. I think it's not working. Maybe you have two screens and.
Okay, let's go ahead and stop sharing again. And let's go ahead and reshare.
Usually first one on the left is the one for your whole
Right,
screen.
right. It's the blue one. We should have it now.
No, it's like a black window. Oh,
Oh.
yes, now it's okay.
Oh, okay, it's building it now. Good.
Okay.
So you can
And-
see my entire desktop now.
Yes, yes.
Great, great. So just to go really quickly through what I was saying earlier, did you see the main window, the main ADS window?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, and you did see the command line window here?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so good, good. So I don't have to go through all that again. But
Before-
if I have to, yeah.
Before we didn't see it, but now we are seeing it.
Oh, okay, okay. So
Okay.
what I was trying to explain is within the main window, you have under tools, you have a selection applications manager selection here, and that allows you to manage and control any custom add-ons that you might have created or you might want to share with other colleagues. And there also are some out-of-the-box applications that come. And generally speaking, the out-of-the-box ones, the ones that Keysight provides, are on the top, and then the user add-ons are on the bottom. And as I said, this is one that I'm working on, so we'll touch on that a little bit later on. But of course, you can manage this by just checking or unchecking, but because it enables it or disables it. So I'll close that now. And what I was saying earlier was that through the command line, which is this window here, and that, of course, you can access that through Tools, Command Line, and it launches this window here. You're able to load routines that you have created, or you're able to load, and once it's loaded, you can then invoke it through whatever instruction you chose to use as your action instruction. As you can see, I have the very traditional, very well-known Hello World program, which is going to be my first demo. And we'll probably be doing that in just a little bit here, before we go on our first break. So that's something that, so this is the ADS environment here. As you can see, I'm sure those of you that have worked on it are very, very familiar with it. And as I was saying earlier, these are very typical pull down instructions here: file, view, options, tool. But I have added this one. This is the one that I added. And this is, I did this through, I wrote it. It's all 100%. It's all 100% Ael. And I'm actually invoking an executable. So through a system call, I'm able to do that. And that's another capability that the Ael instruction set has. You can run a system call. So if you happen to have a batch file that was created through another tool or something, you can do a system call within Ael and it will invoke it. You can pass information into it too. So that's something to be aware of. So let's go back to the presentation here. So as I was saying earlier, we started taking a closer look at the various different types of Ael programs or statements that are available. Can you see my desktop? Just do a quick check here.
Yes, we are seeing your presentation.
Great. I just want to make sure that we're not having that issue anymore, the one we had earlier.
No, I think now it's okay.
Good, good.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure. So,
I just, sorry to interrupt you, but we have a question if you want.
sure.
Things ask that where do we open the command line window? I think you showed it.
The command line, sure.
Yes.
Perhaps they might have missed it because of the confusion we had. So from the main window, all you need to do is do a tools, command line, and once you click on that, this window back here will open. And generally speaking, it opens empty. There's nothing on here. And in order for you to load a routine, you have to identify the routine by its full path. And the reason you have to do that, there is another way around this, and that's if you create a boot file. As you might have seen over here, this particular routine, it's called boot.ael. And by the way, the extension on an AEL file is .ael. On a compiled script or compiled source code, it's .atf. So within wherever this file is at, within here, you'll see, within this particular path here, if you get down to the AEL folder here, you'll see a boot.ael and a boot.atf. And it's the ATF that gets compiled. And oftentimes people, when they're going to share code and they want to protect some of their IP, they just share the ATF file, and it's compiled code. You cannot reverse it. So that's something to be aware of. Whereas if you share the AEL code, then of course you're going to see this over here, and it's basically programming instructions that if you're familiar with AEL, then you'll be able to change it or alter it. Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Good.
Thanks.
Sure. So now back to what we were talking about, a simple statement. So a simple statement in an AEL expression, as I said, all AEL expressions terminate in a semicolon. And then the reason we have some expressions that we refer to as simple is because basically there's no, the value associated with the expression is not something that we're interested in preserving, so it's okay if it gets discarded. And some examples of that are, one expression is A equals 5. We don't care too much if that value gets altered or discarded, so this is called a simple expression. We also have the ability to do B++, which is an auto increment function that most higher level languages have. So again, as I said, we're very much like C, so we have that available too. And of course, you also have the ability to create a subroutine or a function, call it whatever you want to call it, and then identify what parameters, and you don't have to pass parameters. You can do an operation on a global variable, and then all of the functions see that particular value, and they see as it changes or it evolves. The one catch with that, of course, is it's probably considered a simple way out or a simple solution, make everything a global variable, but inevitably you could get yourself in trouble, because sometimes you may want to do an operation on a variable and you don't want to change it. And if it is a global variable, everybody has access to it and it can get changed. So word to the wise, be very careful when you go with a global variable. Yes, it might be a simpler approach or may seem like a simple way out for a problem, but at some point you might decide that you don't want it altered, and then you have to back that out, and depending how much code you have, it could be a big task or it could be a fairly small task. So let's move on to the next slide here now. Time check. So it's 9:53. You want to do the demo and then we'll go ahead and take the first break?
As you wish. Yes, it's okay.
Okay. So let's go ahead and do the first demo. And the first demo is what I said earlier. This is the Hello World Pro program, which everybody I'm sure is familiar with, or anybody who has written code before. So this is a very simple program. Within AEL, there's different ways to output information, and probably the simplest one is the instruction called DE-info. So DE-info allows you to basically, it pops up a window on your screen when it comes across this particular program, defun, and this is the construct, by the way. All programs need to start with a defun. Every routine, you can put a collection of defun programs here. Defun Hello World, defun I like AEL, and then whatever you want to do with it on there. And you have the ability to call them out individually. Like for instance, you'll see later on that I will load this particular program, which is called demo1_helloworld.ael. And what we could do, this would be a very interesting exercise. Let's go ahead and see what it looks like. Yeah. So this is the folder. Is this the folder? No, this is not the folder. Let's go to the folder where the demos are at, and I can show you why didn't it go there? That's fine. We'll just go to it now. Okay, so as I said earlier, this is the Hello World program here. Adjacent to it, you have an ATF file. So if I bring in the AEL file, you see code. If I bring in the compiled, you see that. Not very easily read. So this is the compiled version of it. On a program with several hundred lines, it's virtually, you cannot make this out. It's the nature of having compiled code. And this will run independent of the AEL file. So it's a means of protecting your source code. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and we're going to, let's start from scratch. Let's start from scratch. So normally what you would do if you wrote this piece of code here, called Hello World, and you wanted to run it, and what this is going to do is it's going to basically echo back Hello World. And the way you do that is you go to your main window. As I said, you invoke your command line editor, and let's go ahead and clear out the history on that. And right on the command line, the first thing you need to do is you need to load your AEL file. And what the load instruction does, it compiles. It creates this ATF file here. And just for fun, let's go ahead and delete it. And the load instruction looks like this, and I copied it. Basically, it's load, open parenthesis, open quote, the full path of where the AEL file is, which in this case, it's on the C drive, C data, AEL scripting, AEL demo, hello world.ael. Once you have that, you can hit apply. And it will go ahead, and if it compiles correctly, as it did now, you will see that an ATF file will generate. If you have an error message, and let's go ahead and, oh, and by the way, in Notepad, it'll go ahead and refresh. But let's for fun, let's pretend we forgot this semicolon here. So you can get a flavor for what kind of an error message you're going to get. Remember I said that all the instructions must end in a semicolon. Let's assume that we forgot to put the semicolon on there. And let's go ahead and try compiling this code again. And this time I'm going to delete the ATF again. And let's go ahead and compile. So I'll hit the apply button, and you're going to get syntax errors. And this thing's telling me if I want to keep it. Yeah, we'll just keep it for now. So what it's telling you here is you have an error message that's telling you basically something happened in line 12. So if you go back to your editor here, line 12 is basically saying, you know, it couldn't load the DE info. Why? Because it thinks that this entire statement is all one. It's seeing this one semicolon, and it can't figure out what kind of an instruction is this. So, and it's also warning you there's an operator. The operator, of course, is a semicolon that or a statement that's missing. So that should be a cue for you to look back and say, oh, I'm missing my semicolon. So once you enter your semicolon and you save, and then you clear your messages and warnings by hitting this little X here, and go back to your command line, and you can just do an apply. And this time it compiled without any errors. So now at this point, our program has loaded into memory, and we're ready to, it's telling me that it's got the new ATF. And you know what, let's go ahead and get that out of there so it won't keep warning me that it refreshed it. So at this point, we're now ready to execute the program. And the way you do that is by just typing out the name of the function. In this case, the function is called hello world. And if I type that out, very, very important note here. Ael is case sensitive. So hello uppercase W is not the same as hello lowercase w. So you need to be mindful of your cap locks or your shifts, anything that you type. So world, and then open paren, close paren. So when I hit the apply button, there's my DE info telling me hello world. If I wanted to change this, I would acknowledge my DE info, and I would just change this here in my program. And I would say, I love AEL. And save it. I would need to recompile. So I click on here, and there it is again, to an apply. And then I would relaunch again. And now it says, I love AEL. So that's an information window that pops up. That's one way of communicating with the software. Another way of communicating with the software is if you launch ADS in debug window. This is a little more complicated, but I'll go ahead and add some information into the starter pack that I'm going to make available. You can launch ADS in debug mode, which is very simple. It's not that complicated. Essentially, you take your shortcut and you add in the properties, you add the -D at the end of the executable. So you have your full path of where where ADS is, and then you add the -D switch, and then I follow through with a log file. So if I go to this path here, there's going to be a log file of all the events I launched ADS. But what this does, it actually opens a command window. and I can then output to standard in and standard out. And that generally is very useful when you're running a loop of 100 things and you're not sure if it's going through all 100 or 1000 or whatever it is, and you just want to just look at an output. DE-info will work, but you're going to have to push that button to acknowledge it how many ever times it comes across that DE-info statement. So this is a good tool here to be aware of your standard input or standard output. So you can echo it out to there. All you need to do is minimize your window and all that activity is happening. And when you're done, you just come back and you can review it. So that's the first demo. And we're going to take a 10-minute break, which will put us at 10:15. So we'll resume in about 10 minutes, which will put us back at around 10:15. Okay?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ajay. I think I just need you to stop your sharing because I want to share some slides in this at the break to
Absolutely.
keep the talk going.
Sure, sure.
Yes, and meanwhile, everyone is have time if they wanna refill their coffee or have a break. So I just prepared a presentation about our student branch and the INRS because usually we do these events in person and they can visit the center, but now it's virtual. It's I thought that maybe we can do in this way.
Okay.
So,
well, while you're doing that, I'm going to get some coffee.
Sure. Take your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Hello again, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the first part of our workshop. And one of the organizers of this event was the IEEE student branch in INRS. INRS is the Institut National de la Recherche Scientifique, and it's like a sub-university of the University of Quebec. It's composed of 4 different research centers: the Water, Earth, and Environment, Energy, Material, and Telecommunication, which is our center, and it's located in Montreal and Varennes. And the third center of the INRS is Human, Animal, and Environmental Health. And the fourth one is Urbanization and Culture Society. And each center is located in a different city across the Quebec province. The EMT center is in Montreal and Varennes, which are close to each other. And our centers includes more than 40 professors and more than 140 graduate and postdoctoral researchers. And our research area covers telecommunication networks, wireless communication, multimedia, signal processing, materials, nanotechnologies, and component engineering, ultra-fast photonics, materials and decentralized energy systems, and analyze and energy modeling and magnetic confinement fusion. So, and the pictures are showing you our 2 centers in Varennes and Montreal. And we did last year another workshop on ADS with Boris in Place Bonaventure. So this is today is our second collaboration with the Keysight, and we really appreciate their support. And the IEEE student branch is a group of like a subgroup of the IEEE Montreal sections. It's founded more than 80 years ago, and we have more than 1,000 active members working in different fields. And the Montreal sections includes more than 10 society and around 30 include more than 10 committee and more than around 30 society chapters like the MTT Society that is a co-organizer of this event today. And in the IEEE student tranche, we are trying to organize training and informative events. We try to help students to have a better academic experience and prepare them for better career opportunities. And we are actively and continuously organizing events in Bonaventure and also Warren centers since before, but mostly this team is working since November 2019. You can reach us via our email. You receive the link of this events with that email. You can make contact with us. Also, you can find us in LinkedIn, or Facebook. And this is our teams. I'm the chair. We have Mr. Mansour Dashtiar Dakani as a vice chair and Mrs. Zahra Musavi Razi as a treasurer. And also we are looking for everyone who is interested to join our team. So everyone is welcome. And once again, I appreciate the efforts and time of the Keysight Technology, especially IG and Brist, for their support and collaboration with us. And I hope you find the rest of the workshops very useful. And I invite you to take your break and get ready for the second part of our workshops. I think, as I just said, we will start again around 10:15. So once again, thank you for your time.
I see.